Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center. Jason Gregor is a longtime Edmonton sports talk host, co-host of the Daily Face-Off, and he joins us from Rogers Place in advance of Canucks Oilers tonight. My friend, how are you? Thank you for the time.
Hey, thanks for having
me. He was cutting in and out a little there, Mike.
Yeah, can we just try that again?
Do you want to start from the top?
Yeah, just
for whatever reason, we
There's
got
a jitter there.
A blip there. That sounds fine, but yeah, okay. Take two. Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center. Jason Gregor is a longtime sports talk host in Edmonton, co-host of the Daily Face-Off podcast, and he joins us from Rogers Place in advance of Canucks Oilers. How we doing? How's the city doing today, Jason?
Well, Matty, you know what? Hey, I'm hoping as I sit here watching the Oilers optional skate that we would have a Flames Canucks line brawl, coaches in the hallway fighting. Unfortunately, none of that's going to happen. And let's be honest, like what Connor Garland did was nothing bad. He held a guy. Like, you don't fight a guy because he held someone. Let's be real here. Now McDavid and Myers obviously both overreacted and they got their suspensions. And I really think the NHL, to be honest, at times it's like they want to do everything in their power to eliminate emotion from the game in the regular season. You could have given Myers and McDavid each a 1-game suspension, had them both on the ice tonight, and both fan bases and everybody around the NHL would be tuning in, even though we know there's a small chance of retribution. But it's the hype, man. Look at wrestling. It's all about the hype. Look at reality TV. It's all about hype and stuff. And heck, a president of the U.S. just spews out BS after BS, and people are like, oh my God, tariffs, everything. But the NHL's like, God forbid if we have any emotion in the games.
Well, we just passed the anniversary of Torts versus Hartley, and you're right, we're not going to get a redux here tonight, and frankly, I would not like Coach Knobloch's chances. I don't think he wants that smoke. Answer me this. Your market was big mad earlier this week. Was that just a blip? Has it calmed down any, or are there people baying for blood tonight at Rogers Place?
I think I really don't think Twitter's a representation of the fan base. It's a vocal minority. It's a lot of complainers, sadly. I think most people were like, hey, you know what? Should it have been a holding call? Yes. Was he worthy of his suspension? Yes. Did Tyler Myers deserve a suspension? Yes. Most sane people, I think, realize all of it, right? Now, if you want to say, well, if they called the penalty, then he wouldn't have. Well, whatever. If it doesn't matter. Connor McDavid even said, hey, I can't react that way, right? He knows it. He crossed the line. It's fine. To me, the bigger issue here is fans in Vancouver who have Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson when he's on his game, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen again, the rate he's going, but when he plays well and Quinn Hughes is elite and McDavid's elite and Draisaitl's elite and Matthews and McKinnon, we go down the list, and these guys endure holds, hooks more than any other player because all the infraction, not all, 90% of penalties occur on the puck carrier. Well, who has the puck the most? The best players in the game. So who has to endure the most BS? The best players in the game. And if you're going to tell me that NHL players in 2025 have figured out a way to slow down McKinnon and McDavid legally, I want to see the video footage of it because I only pick those two because I think everybody would agree they're the two fastest, most explosive players with the puck on their stick in the league. Those two combined had 90 drawn penalties in 2022. They're on pace to have 47. And we both know, or all three of us know, that penalties actually go down in the second half. So that's going to be a 50% reduction to your two most dynamic players when the rest of the league is down 0.03% of penalties. So you're telling me they figured out how to defend the two best guys, but they take more penalties against the less skill. Like, make it make sense to me.
Well, let me ask you, was that an ongoing discussion in Edmonton, Jason, before Saturday's game?
Well,
have you guys spent time on that earlier in the year?
I talked about it, but I'll be honest, I've talked about it before the Garland hold because that's it's a minor holding penalty. I get it's at the end of the game and everything, but it's a smart play, right? Because the official. I've talked to so many NHL players. You know what they tell me? They're like, hey, I will slash a guy 5 times because I know only one of them is going to get called. They know it. So they're like, if I got to slash Quinn Hughes and I got to take a cheap shot on Paterson or McDavid, I'll do it because 20% of the time I'm going to get called. And then, guys, even the best power play is only 30% of the time it's going to score. So you do the math. It's worth it every time to cheat the rule book because, A, they don't enforce the damn thing, and B, when they do, it's only 25% of the time.
Well, and we talked about the strategy of a face-off there. If they do call that's at best a 30% chance win for the Oilers with JT Miller at 80% of the night that night, right? So it was good strategy from Garland for sure. The problem, I think, and I don't know why it dropped off a cliff because since McDavid was a rookie, he's the league leader in penalties drawn. But you're right, it has gone down for this year and this year only. I mean, I don't have a theory as to why that would be, but I do know that I think, and this is not something to be solved. It's just the facts. Both Draisaitl and McDavid are very good at playing through the hooks, right? Like some other guys, like Paterson, for instance, is lighter weight. He goes down easy, not to because he's flopping. He's just a lighter weight guy that can't fight through the hooks. Draisaitl and McDavid are both beasts, and they get through those. And I think referees and linesmen see these infractions and are like, I'm not going to make the call. He still got the puck, and they just let it go. And I don't think it's a conscious decision sometimes, but if you don't see the guy wildly spun around or lose the puck because of a hook on the hands, I think they're just not going to call it sometimes.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, but we're saying that then, well, if you're big and strong, you're going to get that's your problem, and so you should lose your edges. Like it doesn't, to me, if you have a rule book, just enforce the rule book. The rule book doesn't state if you're 220 pounds, this hook doesn't matter as much if you're 180, right? And to me, that's where it's going right now. And the NHL, this is not new, guys, though. This is like younger generation, or I'm like, go research Mario Lemieux, who partially him leaving the NHL was he was so dissatisfied with the amount of clutching and grabbing, and he was a big man, that he'd had to endure. Brett Hall, who was never short of voicing his opinion, he came out. So this has been going on for years. And if you look at what's the most successful major sport in North America, it's the NFL, right? They're killing it in the U.S. It's a no-brainer. What have they done? They've changed the rules to ratchet up offense and protect the quarterback, which is the most important player on your team. Right.
They do have a controversy. They have a controversy the other way right now. Like people are crying.
But that to me is it's funny because if you actually look at roughing the passer penalties, Josh Allen has the highest percentage by a mile. Right. Patrick Mahomes is like 15th in the regular season. Now in the playoffs, sure, but then you got to go into time of possession and everything else, sure. And so people get sick of the Chiefs winning. Right? People got sick of the Patriots, so they would look, you know what, that ball's inflated 1 extra pound. That's got to be why they're winning. Like you'll come to anything that you want when you hate a team. And there's nothing wrong with hating the best teams because every other fan base wants to be them. But the NHL has historically, they put in a rule offsides that only eliminates goals. And they overreacted to the worst missed call ever and then went stupid on it. That's what the NHL does. And to me, Connor McDavid comes out on January 22nd and says, hey, just call the rule book. Well, great. But you know what? Connor McDavid's the biggest face of the game. If he really wants change, him and Quinn Hughes and Austin Matthews and McKinnon and go down the list of the top guys need to get together. They need to call their head of NHLPA and say, guys, enough's enough. Right? We want the rule book to be called. And they have power, but I don't think they have the mentality, because the problem is other fan bases here, McKinnon or McDavid says, oh, they're whiners. But what those fan bases don't understand is maybe they'll get the next McDavid or McKinnon in 15 years. But then if you said it was a complaint then, well, now you screwed yourself, right? That's the problem. If fans want it eliminated, they should, because eventually you're going to get a good player. The Canucks went years. They never had Quinn Hughes. Now they have him, and he's one of the top 3 defensemen in the world. It's not even a debate. Right. And so actually I got the stat. He has the puck on his stick at 5-on-5 more than any player in the NHL by 18 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
Right? So he impacts the game. You should want the calls. If you're a Vancouver fan, you should want the rule book enforced because it's going to benefit your team, because right now you have one of the best players in the world at his position.
Hockey players just don't like rocking the boat.
They don't.
I got to ask you this because we've had a lot of fun with it, and I know you're plugged in that market. Whose idea was the statement?
Pardon, you cut out there, Matty. Sorry.
I said, whose idea was the statement?
Oh, my God. That might... When I saw that, I was like, Oilers release statement. I was like, oh, they're going to come guns a-blazing. That might go down in history as the worst plan ever. And so I talked to a few people, and no one on record or even off the record wants to say it. But to me, this was an owner who's furious. Is like, we got to somehow get something out there. We got to do something. We just can't sit here and take it, guys. I'm like, well, then call Gary Bettman and send him a note, because that statement, it actually, things are dying down. And then this asinine statement comes out, and people are just like, even people who hadn't ripped on the Oilers are like, what the hell is that? Like, oh my God, it was embarrassing. I was like, what am I reading here? Yeah, that was not a good look by the organization.
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry. And unless it was trying to be meant at humor, like, hey, let's distract from McDavid's cross-check and put the headlights on us for the lamest statement of all time, then great.
If they wanted to support
I just want
him,
you
though,
to know, Jason, as you explain that to other markets, we here in Vancouver are here to help you through the process of all of that.
well, why didn't they start a process? Why didn't they appeal it? If they were so upset about it, why didn't they appeal it?
Well, hey guys, if we want to talk jokes in the NHL, the appeal process is the biggest joke going. So you could have filed an appeal on Monday, right? So his third game is going to be Saturday. There's no chance they hear that appeal by Friday. We all know it. Like, the appeal process in the NHL is, okay, how many games do you get? Okay, well, we'll hear the appeal process after the fact. Like, it's hilarious. If you're going to have an appeal process, it should be like Major League Baseball. You appeal it, and now you can keep playing until your appeal's heard, right? That's what it should be. And but no, that's that. You know what's funny? There's even
too much common sense there.
In minor hockey, there is a kid who got a 5-game suspension for saying something on the ice, and they appealed it. And so as they hear his appeal through Hockey Alberta, he keeps playing games. And I'm just like, we can't even do that at the NHL. Unbelievable.
Was there anything to it sounded ominous there for a few hours, but the whole notion that McDavid may not play ball with the NHL based on everything that's happened this week.
Yeah,
did you buy it?
Who put
Do you
that
buy
out
any?
No, the source that came out of that, unfortunately, has a history of saying things that aren't remotely true. And this is one of them.
Okay.
What do you mean he's not going to play ball? You're telling me that he's not going to stand up and do interviews at the Four Nations? McDavid, it's one of the few times you can get him really fired up and excited when he talks about the fact that for him, it's the first thought. And I know that Russia's not involved and, Germany's not in there. I get it. But it's still the best Canadians, the best Swedes, the best Finns, the best Americans, right? So you got a lot of the best guys. And yes, while other countries aren't in, this is kind of like a quarterfinal, semifinal. Not everybody gets into those, right? So that's the way I look at this. So no, he's very excited about that opportunity, as all the guys are. And I think everybody should be. I know it's not the Olympics yet because you don't have as many countries, but it's better than nothing, right? Like, if you have 6 teams, guys, in the Canada Cup that we watched for years, is suddenly only 4 teams so egregiously weaker? Like, give me a break. It's fine. And he's going to be there front and center.
There's no Canadian players on the Canucks, so the volume is down a little bit for Four Nations here in Vancouver. Is it pretty, are people in Edmonton excited about the Four Nations Cup? Because we don't really feel that yet here in Vancouver.
Well, you know what? Once it comes, yes. Like, when the rosters came out, there was talk and everything. And, there was some frustration, I think rightfully so, how Zach Hyman's one of only 5 Canadians with 100 goals, yet he's not on the roster. And Sam Bennett has 1 goal since they announced the team. Like, give me a break. But anyway, most people here are excited because they just want to see, McKinnon and McDavid and Crosby and the Americans right now. The Americans have a good team, but I think Canadian pride will kick in here big time because, there's people suggesting that the U.S. is taking over hockey because they win the World Juniors. And I always like to calmly remind people, the World Juniors is a great tournament. It's awesome. It's young. Canada's 3 best players weren't in the tournament: Celebrini, Bedard, and Benson. Put them on Team Canada. Do you think they're better? Like, this is a stupid argument. So now we do have the best Canadians and the best Americans. And, biasly, I want to see them in a final, right? And I wish it was the old format of a best of 3, right? But hopefully we see them. But you can never count out the Swedes or the Finns in these tournaments, especially the Finns. I don't know if there's a country that punches above their weight class in those international tournaments better than Finland.
See, we want to see Sweden. We want to see Sweden versus the United States, because then it would be Miller versus Paterson.
No, but that's one of the
Don't
narratives.
You guys in Vancouver? Aren't you guys having like a Royal Rumble for when the U.S. plays Sweden?
Yes.
Paterson versus Miller. Like, aren't they going toe to toe at center ice? Because from outside the market, guys, it sounds like these two. I don't know. Like, they hate each other. And I'm kind of like, they've been teammates for 5 years. It can't be that bad, can it?
I just hope they go nose to nose on the opening face-off of that Sweden-USA game, and that is one of the draws of this tournament, is that you can project NHL storylines and narratives into this tournament. And it has been far too damn long since we've seen best on best. And so McKinnon with McDavid and all of that, I think is something that's going to resonate, as you say, when the tournament starts, if not beforehand. Okay, last question, Gregor, and it's a tough one here. Who threw the nachos?
Yeah, boys. Hey, good question. I've heard varying reports, man, and I really try to dig into the serious matters. But first of all, can I just say, whoever threw them, less than intelligent. Like, it's the dumbest. Like, there hadn't been a boatload of terrible. Like, there was no reason to throw it. Now, I had some people say, "Oh, it was a Capitals fan." What? No, I don't. I even asked the security guys, and they're like, a guy. They did see who it was, and the person did get escorted out of the building. But they're lucky, because by the rule book, the play should have been whistled down. And in theory, the home team can get a delay of game penalty. Now, I don't know if I've ever seen it, but that is technically the rule. But as you guys know, what we started off earlier, the rule book's just a guideline for the NHL. Right. They don't really like to enforce it. It's just there as like, you know what? Hey, this is here, but you guys decide what you want on any given game, and we'll abide by it. So throwing nachos, I guess now that's okay in the middle of the play.
Man, y'all love throwing things on the ice in that city. I mean, first it was jerseys, now it's nachos. And, some hats get thrown on there, too, with the quality of players they have. Jason, great fun. Thanks for making time here today. Appreciate your insight into everything that's happened this week. Enjoy the game tonight, bud.
Hey, boys, always good to talk to you, man. Continued success, and let's hope there's some fireworks. I'm not expecting any, but God, it would be nice.
No, an emotional game. Like, there's nothing like Canadian rivalries in the NHL. They're a different pitch, a different tenor, and it's great to have this one back. I'd love to see a spirited game tonight.
Like Troy Stetcher, Connor Garland, center ice. Who doesn't want to see it? Are you kidding me? Two little banner roosters going at it. Be unreal.
Straw weight battle.
That's right. For the IBF Featherweight Championship of the world. Thanks, Jason.
See you, boys.